an unconstitutional hoax.
Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show where everybody tells you, don't trust me, verify it. We can see you out there. I am monitoring the channel on 2 different devices. Of course, we've had tech issues all weekend long, and today is absolutely no exception. Right before we were supposed to go live, Boogie Bumper's computer completely crashed. So that's why we're late. We apologize. But before we can get to any more of the show, we got to go with my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going besides wanting to throw your computer right out the window?
Good. Besides that, good. Great. Can't complain. I can't complain even though I want to complain because that would be really bad production. No. It's all going good. It's been a hell of a week, James, hasn't it? It's been a hell of a week. Plenty of stuff going on. There's lots of stuff I want to get into here. Is there anything you wanted to address before we rock and roll? Because I feel we've got to dive right into this topic. And we haven't discussed it beforehand like I wanted to, but because of our technical issues. But I don't know if you're ready to rock and roll. Let's rock and roll.
Let's roll.
Okay. Well, obviously you can imagine down here in this part of the world, the news that's dominating the news cycle 24 hours a day for the last few days. And we don't need to go over it again. The ins and outs of the particular incident. But I want to preface, this discussion that I've got keyed up here with just a little caveat. And, there's a lot of talk about things like false flags, James. And I'm not somebody who wants to dive into that discussion because, quite frankly, I think when we knee-jerk, it must be a false flag because of what other things are going on in the world. I think we're kind of playing into the enemy's hands at that point. And sometimes, I'm happy to hear arguments about false flags and stuff, but I do think you have to bring some kind of evidence to the table. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. On one hand, I understand the cynicism that people have because we've been lied to for so long. But on the other hand, sometimes things are what they are. And instead of just saying, oh, false flag, I think it's on us as, responsible, rational, reasonable people who respect things like evidence to at least wait until more information is available, because the first 24, 48 hours of a major event, it's an information overload. You know what I mean? We're awash with rumors and half-truths and manipulations. And I think it's wise sometimes to just settle and just sit back and then figure out, when more information comes to light, then possibly somebody can put together a story that makes a little more sense. But with that in mind, I've said this before on another show, James. Rahm Emanuel was an incredibly intelligent man, but he was also a kind of horrible man. And he once said, never let a good crisis go to waste. By saying that, I'm saying things don't have to be false flags for political opportunists to make the most of it, to make hay whilst the sun shines. And in light of this event in New Zealand, which took the lives of 50 people and counting, there's still more people in critical condition in hospital, I suspect there are going to be opportunities for, particularly ruthless individuals in the political world to make the most of a bad situation to their advantage. And I just want to I just wanted to preface this with that. And I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things here. Saw this in Slate. Now, before you go off and say, well, Slate, it's ridiculous. Nobody cares about Slate. This is insane. This is a ridiculous left-wing, far-left rag. The way that these publications work and the reason that we use them on this show is publications like Slate and Salon are actually the tip of the hard left spear when it comes to getting information into the public. These are the publications that will quote the far left professors, a professor of sociology or a professor of politics at such and such university thinks we should kill all white people. And you know, they write it out. And then what happens is that gets reported in, you know, a publication that's the next level up, but it gets washed down a little bit. You know, they take a little bit of the hyperbole out, a little bit of the bombast out, and they make it just a little bit more reasonable. And all of these publications then work in kind to present like a consensus. And by the time it gets up to your CNN or your MSNBC, James, they'll say, well, everybody's talking about it, right? That's how it works. So that's why we go right to these places first up, because these are the ones that start to get the balls rolling and the ideas fomenting in the minds of the people that read them. Right-wing terrorism has gone global, James. To counter violence like the New Zealand mosque attacks, we need to target white nationalism in the worldwide war on terror. Just the first thing that comes to mind, why is there no talk about how the very strict gun laws in New Zealand didn't prevent this? Have you noticed that?
Right. I have noticed that. A lot of people have noticed that. It's pretty insane, right? That they're not, this doesn't even get an ounce of coverage, nor does the attacks on the Christians. It's pretty insane. So I don't want to interrupt too much, but.
Well, yeah. And, you know, that's the other thing too. If you bring up the attacks on Christians now, even though you might have been saying it for the last 5 years, you would be seen as a particularly cold, heartless, racist individual who's just trying to distract from white nationalist terror. That's exactly going to be what happens to you. Right-wing violence is usually considered a dangerous form of domestic terrorism. Just a little side note, by the way, do we count ISIS as right-wing? Because we should. It's religious fundamentalism and pseudo-fascism. So, you know, it's very strict. They've got very strict laws in how to govern a society, do ISIS. So that would count as right-wing authoritarianism, believe it or not. But the horrific attack on 2 mosques in New Zealand on Friday shows its growing international dimensions. Brenton Tarrant, an Australian man, reportedly travelled to New Zealand where he allegedly killed 49 worshippers at 2 mosques, wounding dozens of others. In addition, Tarrant appears to have been inspired by a 2011 attack in Norway, praised current US political figures, and drew on US-based social media platforms to spread his message. That's not necessarily true because HN is not based in the US, as best as I can understand it. So a little bit of fact-checking there required. One of the people that he held up as a hero here was, you'll remember, Anders Breivik, who in Norway got onto an island and shot up a meeting of Young Labour, which is like the left-wing party in Norway, and he killed about 70 people. Right-wingers, however, are not just looking for the past. Tarrant also expressed admiration for Donald Trump as a symbol of renewed white identity and common purpose. He also criticised Donald Trump in the same manifesto, James, which didn't print the criticism, and made reference to Black Lives Matter and Democratic Party critic Candace Owens. The technologies used to spread the word are also global. Tarrant apparently warned before the attack that he would live stream his violence on Facebook. He then used a helmet camera to do this while posting links to his own manifesto on Twitter and the message board 8chan. Although the major internet companies have been working to take down his content, it is likely to survive, at least on some platforms, as its author intended, inspire others to attack. Here's where we get into the nuts and bolts of it. Because right-wing organizations exploit social media, technology companies must be part of the solution. Some of this effort should involve taking down right-wing sites and blocking prominent users. Just openly saying it. Just as internet companies already do for jihadi groups, James. Some companies are already starting to take such measures. Now, see, here's the thing. You might be a really reasonable conservative, and you might think that in the broad scheme of things, taking down, you know, those few right-wing obscene websites is probably going to be good for your cause. But here's where you're wrong. Because the people advocating for the takedowns, and because it's going to be controlled by government authorities, what is defined as dangerous right-wing opinion will eventually encapsulate yourself as well. Once you open that door, the definition only needs to change before then you're the one that's bitching and complaining about being censored and taken down off the web. because once we open that door, once we give government that kind of power, they can't stop themselves. They have a lust for control. But there is more to be done than takedowns. Jigsaw and its partners, for example, designed a program to redirect individuals seeking jihadi content online to content that tried to turn away from violence and radical ideas. Similar content for right-wing extremism should be created and promoted by social media companies. Borderline content might be prevented from being monetized, have comments functioned disabled, and otherwise be limited in how it might spread. Here's another article for you, James, from the Washington Post. So we've gone from just take them down, just take it all down and censor the people, ban the people, right? Here's the Washington Post. It goes through its first level of filtration. The New Zealand shooting shows how YouTube and Facebook spread hate and violent images yet again. So YouTube and Facebook need government oversight, James. Friday's slaughter in 2 New Zealand mosques played out as a dystopian reality show delivered by some of America's biggest technology companies. Remember which Democratic nominee was it 2 weeks ago that said we need to break up the tech companies, James? Elizabeth Warren, right?
Yep, Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, and Twitter all had roles in publicizing the violence and, by extension, the hate-filled ideology behind it. These companies, some of the richest, most technologically advanced in the world, failed to rapidly quell the spread of, quote, troubling content. Troubling content. Not violent content, not terrorist content, not, death content, not hate speech, James, just troubling content. As it metastasized across platforms, bringing horrific images to internet users worldwide. The almost instantaneous spread of online images from Friday's shooting underscored how deeply entwined social media platforms have become, with savvy users moving content back and forth across platforms faster than the platforms themselves can react. It also was a reminder of the repeated inability of YouTube, the world's biggest video site, to detect and remove some types of violent content, even though it has for years automatically flagged nudity and copyrighted music. The rapid and wide-scale dissemination of this hateful content live-streamed on Facebook, uploaded on YouTube, and amplified on Reddit shows how easily the largest platforms can still be misused, said who? Mark Warner. It is even clearer that YouTube in particular has yet to grapple with the role it has played in facilitating radicalization and recruitment, James. One more article here. Why does this matter? The New York Times, why China silenced a clickbait queen in its battle for information control. The systems already exist. She was known as China's clickbait queen, an irreverent blogger who prescribed shopping to combat sadness and makeovers to win back cheating husbands. But late last month, Ma Ling, a blogger who commanded an audience of more than 16 million people, went conspicuously silent. In the battle for control of the Chinese internet, James, the authorities had designated Ms. Ma a threat to social stability, pointing to an article she published about a young man with cancer whose talent and virtue were not enough to overcome problems like corruption and inequality. The state-run news media accused Ms. Ma of circulating false information, substitute fake news, James, and her social media accounts were wiped from the internet. The silence of Ms. Ma, better known in China by her pen name, Mi Meng, reflects a broader campaign by President Xi Jinping to purge the public sphere of popular voices that the ruling Communist Party finds threatening, no matter how innocuous they may seem. The moral of the story here is, and again, I understand people's frustration, James, when it comes to having this kind of grotesque information filter through. But if you are standing on a principle that certain type of information need to be filtered out and certain people need to be making the call, then you are creating an environment in which you will inevitably become the victim of your own policy. There is no other way around it. And the reason that we say things like freedom is dangerous and free speech needs to be protected is because we know that human nature is such that when we open the door to indiscriminate banning of certain people or certain sites or certain accounts based on a particular personal preference a disliking of grotesque information, which may be valid. Nobody's saying that it's not valid to be sickened by some stuff that you find on the internet. I'm not even a fan of 8chan. You know what I mean? I don't even go there. I don't even read it. Yep. But YouTube, Facebook, they're all in the loop now. They're all in the loop. And I suspect opportunities like this, after events like we saw this guy live streaming, making our lives a lot more difficult in the process, trying to become some kind of underground Chan hero or something. We are playing the tune that the tyrants and the totalitarians want us to play when we begin advocating for banning things. And, in a perfect scenario, they don't have to enslave the mind of the population, James, because right now there are conservatives on the, people who claim to be on the side of individual liberty. Don't even have to be conservative, don't even have to be a classical liberal, whatever you are. If you are on the side of individual liberty, there are some people who are now walking into their own jail cell and locking the door behind them. And that's exactly the scenario that people who would seek to control discourse on a grand scale, on a mass scale, on this thing called the internet want to happen. Am I wrong? Am I barking up the wrong tree?
No, absolutely not. Look, everybody needs to realize everything you just read. The Nazi Party is in charge. That's it. The Nazis are fucking here, people. They can try to distract you with, no, fuck you. We're fascist. We're not fascist. We're lefties. We're not. There's no way we could be Nazis. No, you're fucking Nazis. And it's proof right here. Literally out of the textbooks of 1984, Animal Farm, all these people that told you and warned you about this dystopian future where if you lose the freedom of speech, you will lose your entire planet. That's what's going on right here. And they have, excuse me, they have put us in the position in some ways of having to defend a monster, having to defend the indefensible. That was their plan from the beginning. I called it, you called it. We put tweets out instantaneously that this was exactly the kind of bullshit they were going to write. Everything you just read describes perfectly in detail why you cannot let them in charge of our lives and of our free speech. And that, look, free speech is messy. Free speech is fucking messy. The alternative is worse. The alternative ends up with Jews in concentration camps. It ends up with people being gassed. It ends up with people being shot in the back of the head. Look at the societies around the world, and what I just said is true for every single instance where free speech has not been allowed, including, let's not forget our friends in China, Tiananmen Square. Let's not forget how authoritarians treat their populations. Free speech must remain free at all costs, no matter how ugly it looks. You cannot try to hide and try to do your virtue signaling bullshit like a lot of people are already trying to do. Oh, fuck 8chan, fuck 4chan. They're a bunch of scumbags, yeah? So what? Who cares? They're free to be scumbags if that's what they want to be. They're free to say whatever the fuck they want to say in a free society for a reason, for an absolute reason. Because they just told you in that one article, and I don't remember which piece of rag it was that you were reading, the re-education is coming. That the algorithm was already being used on us. Not the fucking whack jobs, believe me. The whack jobs are part of it, that's why they dressed it up. But it was being used on us, and it's being used today, right now, on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. They're trying to redirect us to proper content. What do you think all this censorship bullshit on Twitter is about? Why the hell can you not see certain tweets, but you can see other tweets? Why the hell does Twitter keep suggesting you follow Barack Obama every time you go to a politician website? Why do you think these things are happening? It's not a fucking accident. It's not by any means an accident. The re-education camps are here. They just happen to be on the internet. They're going to control you one way or the other, through the television or through your social media or through your newspapers. But they're going to fucking come for you. That's why First Amendment, free speech must be protected at all costs.
Yep. And privacy too. look, what's happening in the UK, and a few weeks ago, this didn't get spoken about much, except for a few corners of the internet. They've now banned pornography on the internet in the UK, James. And if you want to view pornography, you have to register with the government. You know, hand over your name, hand over your details. They will track your quote unquote usage, and they will tax you, James. Now, again, this is something that most people go, oh, well, who cares? I don't care about that stuff. It's not important. But this is opening the gate. This is opening the door. We know because we've been reading the words of, you know, tech gurus and news boffins, media boffins, even people like Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch as well, James. They want to turn the internet into a kind of pay-per-view cable news service, where you pay for a license every single month or whatever, and you're allowed to view certain content online, and you can watch X amount of videos from this person, X amount of videos from that person. We know that this is the way they're going. And why is it important to, you know, again, people may not like the idea that somebody is, you know, posting things anonymously on the internet. Well, why is that important? Why is that important to protect that level of privacy? Because even if you don't like what the person is saying, if you create the precedence that anonymity is now dead and buried, and every single person must be registered online to go on the internet, how long do you think it's going to be before that environment is turned against you? Because then it's going to be exceptionally easy to wipe out or fuck with or take down anybody who is a problem. And the definition of who is a problem will shift from shit posters on 4chan to mainline conservatives in 5 years' time. That is absolutely the way it's going to go. The reason that it's going to go that way is, do you think that the tyrants and the people who want to drive you into the ground are going to play fair? On what planet, on what plane of existence do you think that it ends up with you being in control? The answer is nothing, zero. It doesn't end up that way.
They're using this.
That's the problem.
They're using this tech right now, Boogie, for free speech against climate change. Like, think about what they're trying to drive you to. They are trying to program everybody on the planet. Climate change is real. Climate change is real. You must sacrifice your future. Climate change is real. You must give up air conditioning. You must give up cows farting. You must stop eating meat. These people are doing exactly what we're talking about right now. What in the hell makes you think that letting something like this go is going to be to your benefit ever?
No. They are coming. And like I said, the attack itself doesn't have to be fake in order for the threat from our political overlords to be real. And that's what I foresee the conversation being in the next couple of weeks. I just want to shift, James, to something a little bit different. Did you hear about a guy here, a senator named Fraser Anning? Well, he put out a statement after the attack, James, and basically, look, it was controversial and it was probably meant to get a rise, and a rise he got, indeed. He basically blamed Islam for the attacks on the mosque in New Zealand, which, again, it's not something I would have done in the hours like while the bodies were still warm. But, you know, he's a firebrand kind of guy. He's a firebrand senator. So he looks for these opportunities and he uses them to his advantage. You see, politics is full of people using things to their advantage, both ways. But he got an egg smashed over the back of his head by this teenager over the weekend. And Fraser turned around and gave him a slap across the mouth. But this kid has now become a hero. Egg Boy Hero was trending. Hashtag Egg Boy Hero. Teenager 17 who smashed an egg on controversial Senator Fraser Anning's head jokingly warns others not to do the same because you'll get tackled by 30 bogans. Egg Boy Hero trends worldwide. The 17-year-old boy who smashed an egg on the back of Fraser Anning's head has responded to the incident in a short video clip posted to social media. Will Connolly from Victoria was behind Mr. Anning at a Conservative National Party meeting in Melbourne on Saturday afternoon when he egged the senator. You see how easy it is to become a hero? Sneak up behind someone and smash an egg on the back of their head while live streaming it. You're an instant sensation. You're a viral internet sensation. The incident was captured in confronting footage showing the teen being arrested and later removed from the president. A short scuffle ensued and the schoolboy was grabbed around the neck, tackled to the ground and restrained up to 5 men. I can't imagine why sneaking up to a senator and physically attacking them might result in you being tackled to the ground and put in a headlock. Oh, the horror, James. The horror. It's not fair, I tells you. He said, don't egg a politician. You'll get tackled by 30 bogans at the same time. Here's the thing for me that I want to point out. This guy has apparently become a hero. He's really cool now. And what's cool and uncool must have seriously changed from when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, you couldn't be cool with that haircut and a denim jacket. Look at this. This is now the cool kids with a denim jacket. Shit. Wow. Will Connolly took to social media, blah, blah, blah. So what happens to Will Connolly? Well, he got let go without charge, James. He's free to walk. He physically attacked an Australian senator. What happens to the senator? Well, full force of the law should apply to Fraser Anning after egging incident, Morrison says. By the way, Morrison is the quote-unquote conservative Prime Minister. The Australian Prime Minister has suggested the full force of the law should apply to Fraser Anning after he punched a 17-year-old boy who egged him at an event in Melbourne. He didn't punch him. It was an open hand slap. Maybe we can see it here.
When people are getting attacked in their own...
There you go. And there's the kid being popular on the ground.
Yeah, that didn't look like 30 guys to me. I'm just saying, I can count. I can still do math. I know it's not Common Core, but I can still count to 3. I mean, it's not Common Core, but...
Well, I mean, does he look like he pays attention in maths? Come on now. Come on now. The extreme right-wing nationalist senator, James, has placed himself at the center of a political controversy after the Christchurch attack, saying the mosque attack highlighted, quote, a growing fear over an increasing Muslim presence in Australian and New Zealand communities. The bipartisan motion to be passed when Parliament resumes in April condemns Anning for, quote, inflammatory and divisive comments seeking to attribute blame to victims of a horrific crime and to vilify people on the basis of religion. So the rest of our parliament, the rest of our government and the opposition are going to get together, not to solve, the immigration problem, not to solve the poverty crisis, not to solve any particular pressing issue in our time and space right now. They are going to get together to say, you can't say that to one of their comrades in the Senate. Horrifying, isn't it?
Absolutely. Question in the chat by Kimmy Jong-un. She says, how can you tell it was open-handed? Well, there's a couple of reasons as a man, let me tell you. First of all, the way that he swung sideways tells you it was open hand, because a guy doesn't throw a fist that way because you can't get any connection with your hand this way. Second of all, it's because the kid didn't fold like a cheap suit. I mean, if that guy would have got punched by a guy that was at least a head taller than him and at least 100 pounds heavier than him, and it would have been a punch, that kid would have flew across the fucking room. That's how you can tell it was an open hand. There's no way that was a punch. Not a chance in hell.
Yeah, and there was also the sound that it made, like his hand was cupped, like that.
Yep.
That kind of sound. And also, like, beyond all of that intuition, display right there, there was actually another camera angle where you saw his hand was open. So it kind of cheating a little bit,
I didn't see that angle, but
no, you did well. The reporting of it is, of course, this guy is wrong for punching a kid. Again, the kid is the victim, right? 17 years old. Nobody forced him to go up and smash an egg on his head. No one forced him to live stream it. The kid comes out of it a hero. The senator for turning around and giving the guy a smack on the mouth for doing it. Oh, he's the villain here. And the full force of the law should apply to him. We have lawyers coming out now saying throw him in jail. Throw him in jail. So, like, if you want to see, we want to talk about the rules applying equally to all people, there's another fine example of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think they're going to play fair? Guess again.
Now, if I were the senator, I'd actually sue the kid's parents for everything they have. I would, because they're responsible. As a minor, right? You want to play the game that he's a minor? Okay, cool. As a minor, the parents are responsible for all his actions. He attacked physically and forced the senator to defend himself, which may end up costing the senator everything. So let's just go ahead and sue the kid's parents for everything. Why not? Turnabout's fair play.
Yeah, but again, that's just a microcosm of where we're at and how skewed perception is in the corporate press, James. Somebody goes up and slaps you on the back of the head with an egg, trying to be a hero. You turn around, give him a smack in the mouth. The kid gets, 270,000 Instagram followers out of it. You get a court case. Something's wrong. Something's not right here. And we're being twisted and manipulated into these positions where, the only outcome is going to be some kind of tyranny. Here's another one for you, James.
Hang on one second, because we had real quick, that we have a great comment in the chat. The egg definitely came first. And I want to give you a shout out over there on Twitch. We do have people over there on the Twitch that said that they can see all the comments over on Twitch. So if you're having a problem seeing the chat, head over to Twitch and they can see it all.
There you go, the Twitch app. I want to get your thoughts on this one, James. There are too many deaths and Trump must condemn white supremacy very loud and very clearly. Rep Rashida Tlaib says, remember, impeach the motherfucker? Remember that? Let's go down here. She's got a comment down here somewhere. Or is it this one? Okay, let's see what she said to old Jakey Taparoo.
Look at the data and the information and the facts and actually listen and understand the tremendous responsibility he has in being our president, our leader of our country. He cannot just say it's a small group of people. There's too many deaths, not only from the synagogue to the black churches, to the temples, to now the mosques. We need to be speaking up against this, and it has to start with him reiterating the importance of real information and data that says it's on rise. You can't just say it isn't when the facts say the complete opposite. He needs to do better by us in the country. He needs to speak up and condemn this very loud and very clear.
So she's saying it's wrong to say that it's only a small group of people. Yet, haven't we been told for years and years and years, James, ad nauseum, that whenever a terrorist attack occurs, that it's only a minority of people and not representative of the wider group? Haven't we been told that? Isn't that interesting from one of the first Muslim Congresswomen, Rashida Tlaib? Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has called on President Trump to do better and strongly condemn white supremacy in the wake of attacks on 2 New Zealand mosques. I can understand the thinking where people say, look, he just needs to come out and give the statement and say, yes, I condemn white supremacy. We need to do more. We'll focus on it, blah, blah, blah. But why bother at this point? Because if you come out and condemn it, all of the opinion pieces are merely going to say that you don't really believe it because you've been supporting white supremacy for the last 2 years. He is a white supremacist in the eyes of these people. So it doesn't matter if he condemns it or not. If he condemns it, here's the thing, I think, the only thing that can happen if he comes out and makes a big ceremonial speech about condemning white supremacy is his own supporters will then say, well, he's folding to outrage. Because if they're not, the left isn't going to turn around all of a sudden and say, oh, finally, he's saying the right thing. They're going to say, well, that was an empty speech because he's been supporting white supremacy for the last 2 years. So who cares? It doesn't matter what he says at this point. It's opposition for the sake of it. They will go against their own policies now just to oppose the president. They've done so in things like, pharmaceutical regulation, like trying to bring the cost of medicine and stuff down. They've come out and been against things that they've argued for in the past. So what's the difference at this point? What do you think, James? Should he play politics a bit with this, or should he just keep going the way he's going? And I've lost your audio, brother. Did you mute yourself? No? Oh, Jamesy boy, the pipes are calling. St. Paddy's Day, we cannot hear you speak. And now he's frozen in time for all eternity. Oh, there you go. The fantastic exploits. The Raging Hawaiian, ladies and gentlemen, frozen on screen. What should we talk about while we're waiting for James to come back to us? He is self-censoring, isn't he? Look at that. That's a great hero shot right there. It's like he's just looked down at the cord of the computer just as it's about to explode and go, what the fuck is that? And then bang, there he is. He's frozen up. He's frozen up. Well, we can play a little bit of this video. I started to play this on Thursday while we wait for James to come back. Did you guys see the people protesting out the front of Fox News in New York? Oh, we've got audio.
All right, I'm using my backup mic. My primary mic is frozen, so we're on backup audio. Thank God I set that up.
Backup audio.
Backup audio.
Wow.
I have no idea what's going on. My camera is screwed, so I will work on the camera. But remind me where we're at other than, oh, I remember. Should Donald Trump play politics with this crap? So, yeah, you got to kind of always play politics when you are in the political arena. That's just the way it always is, right? You always have to. Man, I have now completely lost things on my computer. This is getting hilarious.
Tell you what. Why don't you sort that out, and I'll play a little clip of people protesting at Fox News, and you when you're right to come back, you come back.
All right, you keep whirling.
Okay, so yeah, this was people protesting out the front of Fox News the other day, and we started to play a little bit of this on Thursday night, but the internet didn't like me on Thursday night. The internet was a big meanie. It's very mean to little bugs down in Australia. So I thought, I'll have it keyed up for tonight in case we get a chance to get to it. And what do you know? Fate has it.
So I'm here outside of Fox News' New York headquarters, where Media Matters and a bunch of other organizations are heading a protest on the same day that Fox is having a pre-planned meeting with media buyers to try to rebrand their network.
Emma, the lovely young Emma, is from the Young Turks, so very unbiased, factual, objective reporting here.
And get advertisers back to the network.
I've made this point before and I'll make it again. Why is it that 80 to 90% of these protesters who protest against things like Fox News and wear pussy hats and whatnot, why do so many of them seem to be people in their 60s and their 70s trying to relive the heydays of the 60s? It's like an acid trip that never ended. It's like they've broken out the LSD one more time. Hey, baby, it's like 1965. Let's go down there to Fox News and fuck the man. Woo! Can't wait. Oh, James is back. Is his mic working yet? Is your mic working, James? No. Okay, let's carry on.
This week, a plethora of misogynistic, racist, xenophobic comments were unearthed of Tucker Carlson's, where he called Iraqis monkeys, where he defended. This goes on, and people are protesting that advertisers are still buying time on his program.
The best thing that America can do is shut off fake news.
Shut off.
And that would start with Fox, and that would start with all of their programming.
And I love the because we're protesting against being offensive. So what better way to do that than get a woman, dress her up as a nun in a miniskirt and say Fox News is going to hell? It's like, oh, bravo. Well done, protesters. Well done for showing people how not to offend people. That's great. But do you see, again, here we're talking about, it's not just shut down, corners of the internet where people post, Nazi memes, James. It's shut down Fox News. Fox News is Nazi, right?
Absolutely.
You're a white supremacist, James. In the modern,
I got my card. I tell you, they sent it to me in the mail. I got my white supremacy card now. Yep, they're letting in half Asians now. Yep, it's a new thing. They can only let minorities go in if they meet certain criteria, and one of those criteria is that you like Donald Trump. As long as you like Donald Trump, they will send you a white supremacy card in the mail. Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. You haven't graduated to brown shirt yet, though, have you? That's
no. They won't let us in on the brown shirts yet. That's they got to isolate us from that. That's like a white only type of job. It's like the difference. They'll let you work, but they won't let you be in charge of anything.
Times must be incredibly tough for the white supremacists if they're allowing half Asian pretenders in. I mean, they must be screaming for new members.
They're completely desperate. Absolutely.
So, playing politics, Rashida Tlaib. That's what even people, Republicans, say he has to come out. He has to be strong against white supremacy. I don't really see the upside to it because you're not going to make friends in the press. The press have already defined him as a white supremacist. So if he comes out and denounces white supremacy, they'll just say, Well, of course he'd come out and denounce this particular thing because he's been supporting white supremacists for the last 2 years. And then you can bring up all the same things like Charlottesville and all over again. It's just an excuse to reuse them in the press. That's what I'm thinking anyway. I could be wrong.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. That 100%. That's why we called this. We called this the second this shit happened. You and I were talking. We were putting out tweets saying, "Here they come," and this is proof. They're coming. They know that this is a great political tool that they can use. What my point was going to be earlier, I think, was that Donald Trump, of course, has to play some bit of politics here, but absolutely no defense. Remember, this is true across every spectrum on the internet right now. You cannot play defense. Fuck that. You think I'm a racist? Go fuck yourself. I'm a racist. I don't give a fuck. We are going to win here because you are trying to kill us all. You're trying to enslave us all. And I made this point, and I'll make it again and again and again. And I'll say it on every show until they shut me down, which is this. I can lay the blame for that little fiasco in New Zealand, that tragedy over there, directly at the feet of PC politics. Because no matter what you think about him, his plans, his thoughts, whatever, he legitimately had no outlet for any grievance he felt, whether real or imagined. He legitimately had no outlet for that grievance because society says you can't talk about it. Society says you can't do these things. You can't, absolutely, you can't say it, speak it, talk about it anywhere. He would have went into prison. So he had absolutely no outlet for his grievance because society didn't allow it. So when you start talking about that, and you start understanding where they're coming from, what they're trying to do to us, how they're trying to use this strategy, you even think about it like this. How come that they won't condemn? Like, think about it like this. This is the best way that I can say it. We, the people all over the world, are supposed to forgive all of the Islamists, all of the Muslims, for that small minority of people that do crazy fucked up shit and kill hundreds and thousands of people. We are supposed to forgive them the entire ideological spectrum of Islam. But they have absolutely zero tolerance for this guy's ideological spectrum. They're not supposed to forgive him. They're not supposed to forgive that ideological spectrum. Think about that. That tells you right there who's in charge. They're coming for everybody, and they don't give a fuck what you think. As long as you don't think like them, you're the enemy. Cut and dry.
It's a means to an end. And, you know, here's the message that I would want to, you know, put out there is that, you know, I'm against, everyone I know is against killing innocent people in the name of ideology.
Yes.
That's the full stop. I don't care if you are, you know, riding camels in the dunes of Syria or if you're reading 4chan posts in New Zealand. If you are killing innocent people in the name of ideology, you are lower than a cockroach. You have to reach up to touch a snake's ass because, you know, we're not lunatics and we're not bloodthirsty tyrants, and we respect and, you know, love the traditions of, you know, Western liberal civilization, as we know, where freedom of speech, the reason that we have freedom of speech is so all of the ugly speech you get out there, you confront people with words. So because when you start clamping down on the words, James, then the only outlet people have is violence. And that's specifically what we try to avoid. We want all of the ugly speech out there, in full view of everyone, so everyone can see it. You know, people talk about, you know, I don't even want to ban the hate preachers, James. I wouldn't ban them either.
If I was on the internet every day saying crazy whacked out shit, they should want to broadcast it everywhere so that every one of you knew to stay away from that crazy fuck. I mean, think about that. That's what you should be doing. You should be saying, look at this guy, and not fucking saying, aha, go follow him. No. Saying, hey, crazy guy over here. Everybody stay the fuck away.
Yep. 100%. Let's move on. Let's put a little bit of sunlight on a crazy guy, James. Beto O'Rourke, presidential candidate. Jesus. On Trusted Verify, on far right-wing bigoted program that nobody watches called Trusted Verify, tried to associate Beto O'Rourke with terrorism. Well, we can go one step further. Presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke was once a member of the oldest hacking group in the US, James. Did you know this? Beto O'Rourke disclosed that when he was a teenager, he used to be a member of the oldest hacking group in the nation. The revelation, which the former Democratic congressman from Texas admitted in an interview with Reuters, comes one day after O'Rourke announced he was running for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination.
Do you have the Reuters piece on that? Do you have the Reuters piece on this to back it up?
There's a link here.
Because it's very telling.
Report. There you go.
Yeah, the video is very telling. In his own words, the author of the piece tells you and lays it out on the Reuters video, lays out that not only did he get special access to Beto where he admitted this, but he agreed in order to get that access to not share it with the public months until after the election, till after his election with Ted Cruz. Yes, the guy that wrote this piece admitted this. It's completely adds up to exactly what we're talking about, that the left is out to screw everybody. Because don't you think it would be important to have known this information before an election? Of course, that's the journalistic integrity, right? No, not these guys. These guys waited to drop this book to make money till after the election.
Wow. Well, let's have a little look here, see if we can find this.
When Beto O'Rourke ran for Senate in Texas, millions of voters connected with his message and his story. The boy from El Paso who formed a punk band, ran a business, served on the local city council, and then in the U.S. Congress.
Thank you all for being here with us. Being with us every single step of the way.
Is anyone here from out of
he's
town?
Running for president. But his supporters don't know his full story. Almost no one does. Reuters has learned that when he was a teenager, Beto O'Rourke was a hacker. Not just that, he was a member of one of the most influential hacker collectives of all time, a group that calls itself the Cult of the Dead Cow.
Wax my balls.
Joined in the very early years when it was.
Oh, we'll get to that. Don't worry. We're getting to that.
Who each had their own bulletin boards, their own online hangouts, devoted to their interests and their friends and the strangers who stumbled onto their writing. So in Beto O'Rourke's case, it was a board called Taco Land, and it was largely about music, largely about punk music.
Reuters correspondent Joseph Mann covers cybersecurity. He uncovered O'Rourke's secret past while researching a forthcoming book on the Cult of the Dead Cow. While the term hacker today carries sinister connotations of cyber attacks and espionage, there is nothing to suggest Beto O'Rourke ever broke into computers or stole data.
Back
what?
When he was a hacker.
What?
You know,
what kind of hacker group doesn't hack?
You know, James,
can I be a fucking ballerina without ever doing ballet? Is that? Yeah, I am part of the ballerina troupe of Boogie, James, and Tav Show, but we don't do ballet.
You know, the term hacker gets thrown around so much these days, but back when Beto O'Rourke was hacking, he was only doing it to help the community, James. He was like Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa of the keyboard.
But in an interview with the author, O'Rourke admitted some of his teenage exploits were illegal.
My interview with Beto O'Rourke,
that's only going to boost his popularity. It'll only boost his popularity.
So further, I think either in that piece that you were playing, but definitely the guy that you saw that was the cyber correspondent thing right in the book, he self-admits on video, it was on Reuters, that he knew about this prior to the election and he agreed to hold it till after the election. That is more shocking than the fact that Beto was a scumbag, is the fact that all these fucking assholes that claim to be, you know, free speech press and that they're out there for the good guy and they're out there to help you, deliberately hid shit. Oh, just like they did for Hillary. Don't forget that. Don't forget the parallel. The journalists are sold out. They don't give a fuck about you. They care about selling a book.
Well, I mean, you know, and if we're going to be fair here, let's apply the brush both ways, just like Fox News did in regards to a story about Stormy Daniels that they hid until the nomination phase was over, James. But it was Reuters and CNN and all of the other ones that were attacking Fox News, saying they need to be taken off the air for not publicizing something that they had, you know, not publishing the information that they already had. So, you know, hey, if it works both ways, right? Beto O'Rourke wrote poem asking cow to wax my ass and scrub my balls. Scrub my balls.
Dude, you gotta see the video of this. But hold on. You gotta see the video of this. But we have to go here. No, but there is video of this guy saying the poem. In fact, I know someone in our group, Sandra, would love if you read the poem, Boogie.
Yeah, I don't think this video link works. So I'll tell you what, I'll read the poem for you. An excerpt from the poem, which is called "The Song of the Cow." James, are you ready?
Yep.
I need a butt shine right now. You are holy, oh sacred cow. I thirst for you. Provide milk. Buff my balls, love the cow. Good fortune for those that do. Love me, breathe my feet. The cow has risen. Wax my ass, scrub my balls. The cow has risen. Provide milk. There you go.
Oh my God, it is. This is the guy running for president. I just want everybody to understand that. He was part of a hacker group, and he writes poetry about waxing his balls. Yes. And these people are the people criticizing Donald Trump. Uh-huh. Okie dokie.
Uh-huh. What is it about Democratic nominees and poetry? Because I think Al Gore used to write poetry as well, didn't he? When he ran for president.
God, I don't know. Oh my God, that's just fucking great.
Yeah. If you're on Google, if you're on the Google right now, just Google Al Gore poetry, and he had books out. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves. Is Beto a threat, James? Is he a threat?
Oh no. He's not a threat. I don't think he's a threat at all. But
is there going to be a conga line of millennials lining up to scrub his balls, James? Do you think?
No, but I think he's dangerous. I don't think he's a threat. I think he's dangerous. There's a difference. And he'll never win the presidency, but he's not there to win. Just like Elizabeth Warren's not there to win. Just like Bernie Sanders is not there to win. They're not there to win. They're there to stir up their individual pockets of base and then direct them to whatever the eventual Democratic candidate is. That's how these games work for the Democrats. They are the sheep being led to the slaughter. It's crystal clear. They have kids in college and even high school right now respouting their bullshit about climate change all over the place. I mean, there was just a big-ass march in New York City about it. Even though all the evidence points the complete opposite of everything they've ever said. Even their base root of CO2 being bad is provably scientifically a farce. And yet they've got enough people that march to their drum. That's the weird thing that everybody needs to really understand, is that these people aren't there to win. They're there to lead their sheep to the slaughter.
Oh, just before we get to the hammering, James, you introverted, inward-looking American ignorant you. Those climate change protests, that wasn't just New York. That was in like 70 countries, because they had them here in Sydney as well. And we actually had the opposition. We had the opposition spokesman for education, right? The party, the left-wing party that's not in government, encouraging students not to go to school on Friday so they could attend the climate change rally. But so that's a great endorsement for the guy who's supposed to be running education. Nah, don't go to school. It's pointless. Come down here and hold a sign. But the beautiful part was all of these kids holding up the signs. You could count all the spelling mistakes on the signs. It's like maybe one more day of school is what you need. It's poor kids. The poor kids are getting used. But James, it is time for the hammering. Let's rock and roll.
Stop the hammering.
I want to get after it with Chris Cuomo, but it's a special double edition of the hammering tonight because it's also time for
lemon tree, very pretty, and the lemon flowery sweet, but the fruit of the woodland is impossible to eat. Lemon tree, very pretty, and the lemon flowery sweet, but the fruit of the woodland is impossible to eat.
Don't be just because you're a lemon doesn't mean you have to be a sour one. Let's get after it. James, I'm all over the shop.
For some reason, is weighing in on Boeing's newest jet.
For some reason.
This, airplanes are becoming far too complex to fly. Pilots are no longer needed.
See, what were we talking about? For some reason, the president is talking about planes crashing. What the fuck? Stay in your lane, Mr. President. Stay in your lane.
But rather computer scientists from MIT. I see it all the time in many products, always seeking to go one unnecessary step further when often old and simpler is far better. Split-second decisions are...
I tend to agree there. Have you tried to do an oil change on a car that was made in the last 10 years, James? You basically need to learn how to read fucking hieroglyphs to figure it out. Once upon a time, there was a lot of room in the engine bay. Now you've got cords and wires and all kinds of shit. You need a degree in electrical engineering now to service a modern car. But anyway.
Needed, and the complexity creates danger. All of this for very great cost. Very little gain. I don't know about you, but I don't want Albert Einstein to be my pilot.
Even Chris is laughing.
I want great flying professionals that are allowed to easily and quickly take control of a plane.
Okay, so what Donald Trump is saying here is maybe they're packing way too much technology into these modern jets, and it's making it more difficult for the pilot to do what he has to do, right?
It's even worse than that. The president is so on it that he doesn't even know. He knows how on it he is, but Chris Cuomo has no fucking clue. Did you know that we have currently 2 fighter planes and 1 bomber in our flights, in our stables that cannot fly without computers, and that will crash if a human flies them without the computer assist, because they're actually pushing the bounds of aeronautical engineering to the point where they are not flight worthy without a computer to constantly correct their flight package. I'm telling you, I think it's the F-35, the X-22, and the B-1 stealth bomber cannot fly without the computer. If the computer crashes, they're done.
Wow. Geez, I really hope China hasn't been spending the last 30 years working on an EMP. Uh-oh.
Now, for a president who loves to tap into the bygone days of America, should we really be surprised? D. Lemon, how do you see this?
D. Lemon.
Hold your horses, Fred Flintstone.
Did you see I made a Fred Flintstone joke? Did you see that? Did you see how fucking funny I am? I'm fucking hilarious, aren't I, Chris? Hold your horses, Fred Flintstone.
The car.
Oh, he's so fucking hilarious, isn't he?
Yeah, listen, honestly, it's silly.
There's a term for guys like this.
Oh.
Luddite.
He's a Luddite now, James, because Donald Trump is tweeting about, planes crashing out of the sky due to the kinds of technology that are within the programming of this jet, James. He now wants to go back to the Stone Ages.
People who fear technology.
He fears technology.
There are a couple more terms, but I can't say it on television. Listen, the idea that the advancement of technology is a bad thing is just ludicrous.
Whose idea was that, Don? Whose idea was that? Do you see how ridiculous these people are? You say something. Planes are literally falling out of the fucking sky, Don. Literally falling out of the sky. Donald Trump comes out and says, you know what? Maybe we're making these things a little bit too more complex than they have to be. Maybe there's some kind of issue there. Oh, what, Fred Flintstone? Hold your horses there. I guess you're afraid of technology. I can't wait to go back to, what was the Bronto Burgers or whatever it was called in the Flintstones? I'm afraid. He's afraid of technology. It's ludicrous.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Do we want to stay in the Stone Ages? Do we want to
stay in the Stone Ages? Oh, mate. Remember, this is real news. This is real news. We just bring you facts. We're bringing you the facts here on CNN. Donald Trump wants to stay in the Stone Ages.
in the olden times where, again,
olden times.
I know that was a cartoon.
Yeah.
But do we really want to do that where people used to crank their cars up from the front? Remember that when yours got it? Or we can go back to horse and buggies. What do you want to?
What the hell is this guy talking about? What the hell is he talking about? Oh, we got to go back to the time when we cranked up the cars. We want to go back to horse and buggies. What? Why? Because planes are crashing out of the sky and somebody has an opinion like maybe we're making them a little bit too complicated now for the pilots. Oh, well, I guess we'll just have to go back to horse and buggies then.
I mean, unless you want to get on that, we all have to get in the sardine can. So it may as well be as technically advanced as possible to keep us safe. And by the way, you pointed it out. With all of these advances, we've had the safest years ever in air travel.
Yeah, it's never been safer.
Yeah.
Technology certainly helps. But I'm telling you, he knows what he's doing once again.
What's that?
He is tapping into this fear of the new because people feel they're being left behind.
James, did you know that all Donald Trump supporters are afraid of planes? Did you know that?
Yeah.
You have a fear of the new. Meanwhile, these are the people that say, social media websites need to be shut down, right? We don't have a fear of the new. Don't worry about that.
Coal is great. Let's bring coal back. Never going to happen.
Oh,
not unless you start making these, which are advanced.
Oh, yeah.
Much more technically advanced than this, technologically advanced than this. And unless you start making cell phones out of coal, it's not coming back.
Got the color right, but
what does this have to do with fucking planes? That's what I want to know.
Nothing. Actually, Don will be pleased to know that the amount of rare earth minerals that are in his iPhone, the iPhone would cease to exist if we stopped all mining. Did you know that?
Oh, wait. It's even better. It's even better for Mr. Donny Boy. Without oil, he wouldn't have a fucking cell phone. Dippy shit.
Yes. Oil. Without oil, you wouldn't have a lot of things. You wouldn't even have a toothbrush to get on those pearly whites every night.
Other than that, forget it. Look, that's the point, is that he's tapping into something that's very real. I think this one's a little bit of a stretch, to be honest. I think I'd have to put this in the same category of your body only has a certain amount of energy in it. Don't exercise too much because you're basically killing yourself. I put it in the same category of that. The president
think about this. Him flying.
Paging Jim Fix.
Wow. I'm honest, and I don't want anything to happen to him or his family or anyone with him. But
God forbid.
Just think if, okay, so go back to a plane from the 1960s or 50s or whatever he was born and try flying on that now and see how that suits you.
What?
Look, he's so proud of himself. Look at him. Look at the look on his face.
What is he talking about?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but he's so proud of himself in his comment. Look, it's like, Donald Trump gets owned by Don Lemon. Hey, why don't you go back and fly a plane from the 50s and 60s and see how you like that? That was, ladies and gentlemen,
lemon tree, very pretty, and lemon flowery, sweet, but the fruit of the is time to eat. Lemon tree, very pretty, and the lemon flowery, sweet, but the fruit of the is time to eat.
Which was part of... That's your cue.
I know that's my cue. I'm laughing too hard. I had to sing the song.
Stop the hammering.
Seamless transition.
Seamless transition. Listen, I want to cover something before we get out here, because I was wrong about a number, and I want to be clear so that people think I'm not fucking crazy. Okay, here you go. This is a website called Stack Exchange. This is for airplane pilots and mechanics and everyone else involved. So when you were listening to the Cuomo brothers there, believe me, the F-16. Think about how invasive that plane is around the world. The F-16 cannot fly without a computer. If their computer system crashes, the plane is going down, buddy. Okay? It just is. Yes, they have hydraulic systems, However, those hydraulic systems are controlled by fly-by-wire. Everybody know what fly-by-wire means? That means without an electrical signal, nothing moves. That's why the modern planes are a problem for pilots. They cannot fly without the computer. So that's when you're looking at, this plane crash that we got with the freaking, Boeing 737. It's a serious thing to talk about. It's not a joke. The president was dead on accurate that the planes have become too complicated to fly without a computer. That's all. That's a pretty good statement. Right?
And just before we go, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, James, I do have a traditional Irish poem here for you. Buff my balls, love the cow. Good fortune for those that do love me. Breathe my feet, the cow has risen. It's my ass. Grab my balls, the cow has risen. Provide milk to tall. There you go. Traditional Irish poem. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll check you out next week. Aloha.